This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey now, welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. It's a wonderful Tuesday. Michael Remis in the host chair for Hustler, who has touched down in San Jose, Costa Rica. I don't know, maybe we'll touch base with him throughout the week, but I'm so pumped to be here. Big Winnipeg Jets game day in Montreal to take on the Canadiens, who are surging since the last time these two teams played. Connor Hrabchak noting on X, 13-4-2 Montreal since losing to the Winnipeg Jets. That was the last time they had lost back-to-back games, actually, until the last two. Montreal coming in on a two-game losing streak, one of their last game, an overtime loss to New Jersey. Again, so pumped to be here. Got a great schedule of guests. Connor Hrabchak, WST contributor. Jets Weekly on Mondays. Sunday Live Sundays. He'll be hopping in a second. I do want to say, if you missed yesterday's show, some great conversation with Jeff Hamilton on the Bombers. You want to listen to that for some off-season Bombers talk. Over the weekend, it broke that Adam Bighill wasn't going to be offered a contract, and yesterday they released Drew Wolitarski, and who we had Mike McIntyre on as well yesterday, and some good talk about the Mikko Rantanen trade. So make sure you hit up yesterday's show if you haven't. Coming up today, Brandon Rewucki, Skates and Plates, some Jets talk. He's a big Eagles fan. We got like 2 weeks to talk about the Super Bowl. I don't know, are we rushing into that? Does anyone want to hear about the Chiefs winning again? I see T. Will and Chad writing hashtag Chiefs Free Zone. And we'll also be touching base later on in the show with Shaun Starr. He's on TSN 690. He's got his own YouTube channel, The Shaun Starr Show. You can just search for Shaun Starr, Shaun, or check out the description for the link there. And we're going to bring in Connor right away. But first, shout out to the sponsors: Rolly's Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Princess Auto, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, F Apparel. Fans first, and I will be taking notes here for fan feedback. We'll have to get to that at some point. And who's the other one? Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports. Check out their exclusive Winnipeg Jets hats now at Royal. Unbelievable hat rack. What a collection there. And the Winnipeg Jets WST night is Feb 7. That's the next one. So winnipegjets.com/WST. Get your tickets for that. Jets Islanders, one of the last games before the break. Other sponsor notes, subscribe to our mailing list if you want to get in tickets for the whiskey tasting part of the Whiskey Fest. That is the end of February. I should know the exact date of that. I do. Here, let me look at February 27. That's the Thursday. And we are giving away Manitoba Moose tickets as well to the game on February 9. WinnipegSportsTalk.com/contest to enter there. And finally, for all you poker players, there's another event in the Lock Shop Poker Series tomorrow night, 9 p.m. at Coolbet.com. Sign up for the Coolbet Poker app and search under the filters for Lock Shop. All right, I've talked enough here. Let's bring him in. Connor Hrabchak. We're going to talk Jets. Whatever. A lot of NHL news coming out as well. But let's bring the guy in. He got complaints yesterday, Connor. People were ragging on you. I know. They said, "Where's Connor's WST merch?" I was merched out. I got the polo and the hat. You went into the closet and brought out that wonderful hat. Connor, how's it going? Welcome.
I'm doing well, doing well. It's a beautiful January day in Winnipeg. It's like +2 right now, high of +3 today, I believe. And yeah, it's an awesome day. Going to be a fun game tonight. Montreal is the best team in the East since losing to the Jets in mid-December, 13-4-2, like you said off the top there. So it's going to be two really good teams battling, and the Jets going back on the road. I will just say one quick note on Royal Sports. That's where I got this hat. No, I got the hat from you, but there is Winnipeg Sports Talk merch that I saw at Royal Sports. I was there the other day and picked up a nice new Team Canada jersey for myself.
You did?
With the Four Nations face-off coming up. Yeah, picked up a nice red Team Canada jersey. It was awesome.
Is that the one you were wearing at the outdoor rink?
Yes, that is the one. I want to get a name and number put on it too, and I am taking recommendations for who. I mean, like Morrissey is going to be playing on Team Canada in 2 weeks or whatever, so maybe you go Morrissey, but I don't know. My dad has like a Crosby one from the 2010 era, so like if McDavid scores in the Olympics next year, a golden goal or something, like I'd want McDavid, right? Like that's, I don't know. Maybe I think too much about which name and number to put on the jersey, but I think that's a big decision.
Here, well, I don't know what era is that. What's this jersey from? Like that's not a current. See, I'm a jersey snob, so I would say that you can't get Morrissey because he never did. He wear that jersey for Team Canada at any point?
So, Cole Perfetti actually wore this jersey. It's like a World Junior jersey. Braden Yeager most recently wore this jersey.
Oh, okay.
This iteration of the Canada jersey. Yeah, so if I wanted to keep the Jets angle and go with these jerseys, I think this one's only been used in the World Juniors. I guess that's the only thing Canada's been playing in recently for hockey. But yeah, Cole Perfetti wore this one. I think that's when they debuted in kind of that bubble year. And then this most recent year, Braden Yeager and captain of Team Canada wore it.
Well, don't poo-poo the double IHF Worlds. And actually, I see that jersey, and I think Marie-Philippe Poulin's scoring some big goals for Canada as well. So, hey, that would be a big one. You mentioned your dad's got Crosby. I rock the O2 Sakic when I hit the ODR. Bought that, 23 years ago now, probably this month. Anyways, Jets, Habs tonight. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Montreal, as you mentioned. They're hot. They've got some exciting players. Lane Hudson leading rookies in scoring, which I think is a surprise after you have Michkov and Celebrini, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki. They've certainly picked it up. But I think the Jets played pretty well, 3-game win streak. And you look at their lines today, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going back to that Ehlers, Nemesnikov, Perfetti line on the second line. I know the first line, the Connor Scheifele, Velarde, which we've seen a lot of this year, hasn't had their best games of late recently, but that changed on Sunday against the Flames. Kyle Connor scored the incredible goal. Gabe Velarde had a 4-point night. So that line really had a breakout game. And I know you're going to have Brandon Rewucki on the show today. I remember him saying a few weeks ago that every time it feels like that line is about to be broken up or they're really struggling, it feels like they have a statement game. And I feel like that was one of them on Sunday. And then the second line behind them, with Ehlers, Nemesnikov, and Perfetti. Obviously, Ehlers and Perfetti both had great nights on Friday against Utah. Perfetti with the hat trick, Ehlers with a 3-point night in his flu game. So, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I agree with that. Roll with these lines until they burn you, in a sense. And that second line, I think that's the biggest question mark, because going into this kind of stretch here before Adam Lowry got hurt, they needed to be broken up because they weren't playing too well. And then we saw the Ehlers-Lowry duo, which we've talked about at length. But yeah, I'd keep my eyes on that line to see how they're playing and see if the top line can continue how they played on Sunday, because they were all over the Flames and really took that game over on 5-on-5 and on the power play.
Yeah, Ken Wiebe is in Montreal for the Winnipeg Free Press. He will join me tomorrow recapping this game. Just if you forgot what the lines were, you're listening on the podcast, need a refresher. Connor Scheifele, Velarde, Ehlers, Nemesnikov, Perfetti, Niederreiter, Kupari, Appleton, Barron, Gustafsson, Iafallo. Brad Lambert is on the trip as the extra. Morrissey, DeMello, Sandberg, Pionk, Fleury, Stanley, Hainel and Miller, Connor Hellebuck starting in goal. Well, here's Coach Scott Arniel spoke before the game to the Montreal media, and he just touched on the last week of games and tonight's opponent, the Montreal Canadiens.
We went out for a couple of those games, the Utah and Colorado game, and we knew what happened to Utah, but I like the way we responded coming home, and they're better games, and when we play that way, force teams to make mistakes and capitalize on those. We're usually successful.
Stylistically, Montreal, how much different are they than the two teams that you just kind of went up against?
Well, they get some offense. They can push the pace, especially when it comes to their back end, their defense coming as well. Since we last saw them, I think our records are pretty close to being identical. They're playing well. They're good here in this building, so we got to limit the amount of opportunities. When we talk about that, that's our puck management. How we handle it, making sure we got numbers over top, not giving those odd man numbers against. So, they can transition quick. They can score. They got people that can make plays. So we just got to make sure we're defending first.
Making sure they're defending. We'll be seeing a lot of Suzuki, Caulfield. Those are the big horses. Cole Caulfield having a career year, about to set career high in goals. And, well, Connor, is it still a big deal when the Jets go up against former Winnipeg Jet Patrick Laine? Does that move the needle? You're nodding your head yes. Do we still care, or is he old news at this point? The Jets are in first place. Gabe Vilardi just had a 4-point night. Can you put the love affair to Patrick Laine to bed?
Well, I think the love affair of potentially bringing him back, I think that can be put to bed. But the love affair of what he did here when he was here and the fan favorite that he was for the first couple years of his career in Winnipeg, I don't think that'll ever go away. I think Patrick Laine's entire career, when he plays against the Jets, it'll be sort of that what could have been, because he was traded so young in his career as well, right? It turned out well for the Jets. They ended up with Dubois and then ended up with Vilardi, like you said, who's playing incredible, pending RFA, over a 70-point pace, on pace for 35 or more goals. It's worked out for the Jets. But I still think, because of how much he was a fan favorite, how often you see the Laine 29 jersey still around Canada Life Center, I think it'll always be a story when he takes on the Jets.
Yeah, they were blowing those jerseys out. They had so many, and you were able to pick them up for pretty cheap. I got a closet full of them. Superman's got uniforms. But I'm looking forward to seeing tonight. And one player looking forward to going up against Laine, Nikolai Ehlers. They were buddies here. Ehlers was asked about going up against Laine and the games they just played on the most recent homestand.
I went for dinner with him last night. Not too much chirping about the game tonight, but hopefully we'll be out there against each other. We'll definitely be talking a little bit. So,
you look back at the homestand that the team had. You win both games 5-2, but it was kind of a grind, both of them, against two really defensive teams. What do you expect against Montreal here tonight?
Well, they've obviously been really good lately, and you look at their team, they got a pretty good team. So we know that they have a lot of skill, they got a lot of speed, and they grind pucks as well. So it's going to be a tough game. Games in Montreal are always fun to play. They're always hard, but they're also a lot of fun. So we're excited for this challenge tonight.
Jets excited for the challenge. Start of a road trip. We've Montreal tonight, Boston Thursday, and then the Washington Capitals. First place Capitals and Alex Ovechkin on Saturday. Nikolai Ehlers had that huge game with Cole Perfetti on Friday against Utah. I think you'd like to see a bit more of that, because it had been a while since they had that type of performance. And now that Cole Perfetti has adapted this prick identity that he would reference Friday morning, is that something that we could see tonight? I always feel like the second line on the road maybe has got the advantage of not being the one that the opposition is trying to focus to shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cole Perfetti, like I mentioned on Monday's show, led the Jets in hits on Friday night. Not only did he have 3 goals, he had 3 hits as well, which led the team. He had 8 shot attempts in that game as well, 4 shots on goal. So this new prick mentality that you mentioned there, and Cole Perfetti seems to be adapting to, and Neil Pionk even said the other day that he's taking note of, is working. And it's really, it comes down to when these skilled players, and in Cole Perfetti's case, a smaller player as well, when they're not producing, how are they affecting the game? That's what Scott Arniel would say. That's what all the coaches in the NHL would say about any of the skilled players on their team. When they're not scoring, when they're not producing, how are they affecting the game? we went through this with Kyle Connor for a long time as well. When he would go through cold streaks and he wasn't really contributing defensively, that was a lot to be desired really on your top line when he would go through those cold streaks. I know it wouldn't happen often, but now this year, even he's reshaped his game a little bit, playing a little bit more defense, back checking, and his defensive metrics are going up. So if there's a game where he's not scoring a goal, he's not completely losing his minutes. And Cole Perfetti, still a young player, 23 years old. He has to learn that. And this is maybe that next level that he needs to get to, where even in a drought of 14 games without a goal like he did have, he's not completely burning his line, and they're not completely losing their minutes. They're still affecting the game. They're still playing solid defense. And I think that's sort of that next level that Perfetti's aiming to get to. And we're starting to see maybe the building blocks of these first couple games here since he said that comment, really.
Yeah, Cole Perfetti, he had a great start to this season and last season, the second half, bit of a slump. But this year, I think he's on his way. He's only 10 points off of last year's total. He's got 28 and 51 last year, 38 and 71. We'll see what the final 31 games hold for him as he looks to build on last year and try to improve. Just looking at the Habs lines here, Connor, we have Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Newhook, Doc, Laine wearing number 92, Anderson, Evans, Armia, Pezzetta, Dvorak, Gallagher. And then on defense, Lane Hudson, the rookie, scored his first career goal against the Jets in their last meeting mid-December with Mike Matheson, Caden Gooley, and Alexandra Carrier, and Arbor, Zakaj, and David Savard. And David Savard's a name, right shot defenseman, UFA. In trade rumors, you think he is someone who the Jets would consider trading for, at the deadline. Although for Montreal, they're like 2 points out of a playoff spot. I wonder if their deadline plans have changed.
Yeah, that's maybe the biggest prototype that you're looking for on trade boards is those right shot defensemen that can kill penalties and play tough. And David Savard fits that. His metrics have really plummeted over the last couple of years, especially since he came to Montreal. He is losing his minutes, but he does kind of fit that mold of maybe a third pairing guy that brings experience, can play physical, and maybe the Jets management is looking for that. But personally, we'll see how he plays tonight against the Winnipeg Jets if he does end up in the lineup like Daily Faceoff is projecting there. But I will say I think there are better options even on the trade board than David Savard, even though he would come at a lower cost.
Yes, there you go, Connor, weighing in. So we'll have to get more into that later on. Going through the clips, Montreal media, first look at the Winnipeg Jets. Got to be impressed. Been first place pretty much all season since that hot start. Here's Scott Arniel on the key to being on top for most of the season.
Consistency. We've had to win in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's our power play, sometimes it's our penalty kill, it's our goaltender, it's our 5-on-5 game, but I think that's probably the area, the consistency side, is we don't give up a lot. We try to limit, the opposition, try to frustrate them. I think we've been pretty consistent in that, and that's the buy-in that we get, not only from our so-called checkers, but also from our top players, our top offensive guys. They bought into how we play without the puck.
Consistency, very key, and I think that's what it's been for the Jets pretty much all year long. The type of game you're going to get. When the Jets were not having success, it was like, well, I don't know which Jets team is going to show up, and you look at all the league metrics, Connor, first power play, the least goals allowed, most goals scored. It's pretty incredible what you're seeing. Top goaltender, guys going for the Rocket Richard, possible Jack Adams candidate, and Scott Arniel. We talked about all those yesterday, but it's pretty impressive when you sit back and look at the Winnipeg Jets season. Although I don't know, maybe for some it's always in your back of mind. Oh, the regular season is great, but let's see them carry this into the playoffs. But I think you have to admire the success they've had, and they can really put an exclamation point by finishing the story and winning the division and possibly winning the West here.
Finish the story.
Yeah.
I will say a lot of people, I agree with you. This is a big stretch, at least going into this sort of Four Nations break as well. And then obviously coming out of it, trade deadline, going into the playoffs. And a lot of people have, maybe the perception that the Jets have slipped since the 15-1 start, their historic start. And since then, they are 19, 13-3. But I tweeted this earlier today because I was looking. I thought the Jets have been winning a lot more games than they've been losing recently. There was that brutal stretch in the middle to late November where they had the 6-game road trip, and then they would return for one home game and then go back on the road for 3 and come back for 1. And we talk a lot about, or we did yesterday, about the scheduled wins and scheduled losses. There were a lot of scheduled losses against tough teams on that tough road trip. Since then, since December 4th, they're 16-6-3. That's second best in the NHL over that time and best in the Central. They're tied for second with Washington, and they trail only Edmonton in terms of total points since December 4th. So how many years in a row have we seen kind of this second half collapse? Well, we're into the second half. Usually the Jets would stumble into the All-Star break or whatever break it would be, and then the narrative would be, oh, they really need this break. This year, they're doing the opposite. They've won 3 straight. Scott O'Neill called their performance embarrassing on Monday, and they've responded with 3 great wins. And 16-6-3 since the start of December, and since that kind of brutal part of their schedule, I think we're seeing the opposite of a second half collapse. I think we're seeing a team that started off really hot, best start in NHL history, slid a little bit with some schedule, some injuries. Sandberg and Ehlers were out, but now they're healthy. Now people are in the lineup. They're playing their game. The power play is red hot, 33%, and they're banking points because of it, and they're still first in the West.
Yeah, you look at the Winnipeg Jets' last 10 games, 7-2-1. It's better than Dallas, better than Minnesota, who just received news today that star forward Kirill Kaprizov out 4 weeks with surgery, and better than Colorado, who just made the big trade over the weekend at 4-5-1. Connor, we were focused so much about... Actually, here, before we get into that, let's just talk about Josh Morrissey. Game time decision on Sunday. This flu bug going through the team. It was Ehlers with the flu game Friday. Morrissey Sunday, he didn't play his regular minutes. How's Josh Morrissey feeling? He talked about that and what he's seeing from tonight's opponent, the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, feeling a lot better. That stuff's going around this time of year, so everyone goes through it. But feeling way better.
What stands out to you about this Montreal team that you've seen this year? It was a little while ago, but what stands out to you about them?
Yeah, they're playing aggressive and they're playing really well. Obviously, they're in the hunt in the playoffs in the East and got a lot of skill. They're a young group, but trying to take that next step, and so that's a dangerous team. So we have to be ready to go.
Josh Morrissey says Montreal, dangerous team, got to be ready to go, and he's feeling better. It's going through everyone. Everyone I know, as in Winnipeg, seems to have been going through it. At least, I don't know, just my kid's been sick the last 2 weeks, so I imagine it's going around. Scott O'Neill facing the questions there from the Montreal media. They asked, are the Jets ready for playoff success? Regular season's one thing, but yeah, let's see if you can do it in the playoffs. Here's what Scott O'Neill responded.
I'd like to think so. I mean, I don't really want to talk about playoffs. It's the next step. But the one thing, our group has been together for a while. A lot of our core has been here. They had the experience in 18, and they've been through a lot together, both good and bad. And you learn from all those things. Every player, you get in that age bracket, you're no longer young. You've been through experiences that leads you to the next that next step. And we'll see what happens in April. After that, once we get there. But this is all us about building a brand, building a way we want to play consistently, so that when we hit those playoffs, we know what's going to help us have success.
Yeah, I think there's going to be questions, but Connor, I don't think you can be like, for every single Jets win, yeah, but let's see them do it in April, right? I mean, you can only do that for so long. I do see some comments like that in the chat, but we're here. We're enjoying the ride. They're winning, I don't say every game, but winning pretty consistently here. And I'm going to talk to Shaun Starr in Montreal, and he's like, hey, we're not doing the lottery simulator in January. This is great. So the Jets have had some really nice regular season success here the last couple of years.
And I will say, coming out of the last 2 years where they've won the first game and then lost 4 in the playoffs, and fans rightfully so, it's all about the playoffs. This team has proven that they should make the playoffs every year, so it's about how they play when they get there. The 15-1 start, I know the Jets wouldn't take that back, but that just basically, like, okay, at the time, I think I had a stat on WST Sunday Live that if the Jets played 500 hockey the rest of the year at 15-1, they would have ended with like 92 points or something, which is right around the playoff line. So they basically made the playoffs in early November or October. Not really, because obviously you can slide out of the playoffs at any time, but they had to play average hockey the rest of the year to squeak into the playoffs. Obviously, they've played much better than that. They are a much better team than that. But that has just shifted the focus all to the playoffs, because this team basically made the playoffs or gave themselves such a cushion so early in the season that the discourse has just entirely shifted already from what it was, which was focused on the playoffs, even more so now. But yeah, we're enjoying the ride. They're first in the West, fighting for first in the NHL. On Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, it's lining up to be the top two teams in the league, number one in the East versus number one in the West. Washington versus Winnipeg. Like, that's going to be an awesome game. And if you want to sit and think about April and what the team's going to look like, sure. But I focused on that game because, or tonight's game, Montreal, one of the best teams in the league, like I said, over the last month and a half, and an original six opponent. Like, these games are awesome. The Jets are one of the best teams in the league, best team in the West. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the ride.
All right, Connor. Well, we'll be joined by Brandon Rewucki in a second, and you and I will touch on some big Jets overarching topics later on in the show. Thanks again, Connor. We'll be hearing from you later on.
See you in a bit.
And we'll be joined by Brandon Rewucki, Skates and Plates podcast. But first, hey, if you're enjoying the show, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Tells YouTube we're putting out some okay content, and maybe it'll show it to some other people who are logging on YouTube and just looking at the front page and whatever it may recommend. So any support you can do by commenting after, weighing in on the Jets, or again, liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Huge help, and we appreciate everyone. Shout out to 340 people in chat right now. It's awesome, and I can't forget about the podcast listeners as well, listening after the show on whatever platform that they may be on, probably Apple Podcasts, but there's also Spotify and some others. So shout out to everyone. But here, we're going to get to Brandon for some more Jets talk. But first, here's Huss.
Do you want to thank the great people over at Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Keep an eye out on the roads. The new Rolly's WST truck is out helping Winnipeggers move to their next destination. Hey, Rolly's is family owned and operated and has become the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba over the last 60 years in business. If you've got a move coming up in 2025, get the white glove treatment from Rolly's and get a great deal for being a WST listener. Head on over to their website, click on request an estimate in the top right corner, and put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and let them know when you're moving, where you got to go, and what needs to come with you. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly, get you a great quote, and get you locked in to make that next move for you and your family in 2025. Moving this year, get the white glove treatment from Rolly's. Find out more, request an estimate today over at Rollys.com. A nice break in the weather today. It's actually gorgeous outside. It was brutal the last few days, and bad news, we're going to get right back to it, which means this is your chance to make sure that you're not on the side of the road calling one of your buddies for a boost or CAA. Make sure that you're ready for what's to come in the next few months in the teeth of Winnipeg winter. And that would be going down to Manitoba Battery, making sure your battery is great. You can get free testing at either Logan Avenue or Dovercourt Drive. And if you need a new battery for your car or your truck, shop local, get the best prices in town, and heck, the best service as well. Manitoba Battery will deliver your batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. It's just that easy. So give them a call or shop online today at manitobabattery.com, and don't get left out in the cold. And hey, our friends at F Apparel are also ready for the new year. If it's new year, new you, new wardrobe, and you need to step up your menswear game, head on down to F Apparel. Custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories in the city as well. Of course, fellas, if you're getting married this summer, You know, they're already working on big wedding plans, and heck, they've got a great deal for a discount for the wedding party when you and the fellas get your suits for the big day. Get on that as well. Pop by and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. You can also find more information or book a fitting online at their website at EPHapparel.com.
There's us. He's in Costa Rica. We're waiting on him to, send a video on X or on Instagram of him in some body of water, whether it be a lazy river, some infinity pool. He did it. He did it in Vegas. He did it in Qatar. Where in the world is Hustler right now? Costa Rica. Let's get to Brandon Rewucki, Skates and Plates podcast. Brando, as I adjust your video here, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
And happy to hop on a bit early in the week, and yeah, should be a good time here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward. Well, I mean, good time for the Winnipeg Jets this weekend. Revenge wins. Utah Friday with Cole Perfetti in the hat trick, and the revenge win. Eric Comrie getting his first win since November on Saturday against Calgary. What do you think of the Jets' play this weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, interesting too, because those wins come off the heels of Scott Arniel kind of taking it to the boys a little bit for the first time as head coach, and they were demanding accountability, and yeah, they got it. I was intrigued by what the response was going to be. I wasn't doubtful that it was going to be anything negative, but they certainly backed it up in a big way here. Nice to see that they don't hate Eric Comrie. I kid. But like the dude needed a bit of run support, and he finally got it in front of him there. But to me, what's really jumped off the page, and it's done this all season, so it's no real big surprise, but it remains crazy that this is basically the same power play unit as last year with a few tweaks and changes. And we are just watching a truly historic group hit the ice every time the opposing team takes a penalty. And it's just going to there's been teams that have rode strong goaltending play and hot power plays to long-term success in the postseason. And the Jets certainly have both of those elements, but they're also a much more tidy 5-on-5 team as well. It's not all just kind of smoke and mirrors with the Jets right now. So it's very easy to get excited. And when you watch this power play humming the way it is right now, doesn't feel like it's going to slow down a whole lot over the stretch run here in the regular season. And it's kind of turned into this ultimate weapon for them that they've been able to unleash on the NHL. And I think the line might have been recession proof from Davis Payne. Business is booming right now. The market's looking good for the power play. And it's just Calgary was the latest unfortunate victim that had to go up against it a few nights ago. Yeah, 2 for 2. And we talked about yesterday with Mike McIntyre, haven't really been getting the penalty calls. The opportunities have been kind of scarce, but they're able to capitalize. I'll ask you this, and I'll ask the chat. Do you have, the Jets power play? You can score so many. What is your favorite part right now of the Jets power play? Because, I feel like it used to be just, Wheeler to Laine ripping shots, but right now there's just so many different options. You got a favorite play from the Jets power play that sticks out to you? Well, it's funny you mentioned the old, Wheeler runs it on the half wall, Laine clap bomb on the other side. And both approaches can work, but to me, it's all about the unpredictability with this unit. And just the fact that, and especially compared to what they did last year, where it was unbelievably static. Like, it basically, everybody had their spot on the ice. You might move a foot or two off of that mark, but for the most part, it's going to be, we're stepped up and locked up here, and we're going to try to beat the opposition, with relatively little movement. And that's just been a complete 180 for this year. Nikolai Ehlers' full-time inclusion there has obviously played a huge part in that, where the coaching staff kind of gives him free reign to go nuts and to pick his spots all over the ice. It reminds me a little bit of when McDavid and the Oilers had their historic power play run a year or two ago, where McDavid would just kind of be this roaming rover that didn't have a set spot on the ice. And it's difficult to defend. And Ehlers is doing that really to perfection so far this year. But outside of just the unpredictability itself, I feel like the unsung hero on the unit is Gabe Vilardi, who I think is, at worst, he's one of the 3 best, but he might be the best net front presence in the NHL on the man advantage. And what he's able to do in tight and in close angles, and his ability to fill the net within that 5-foot area, but also potentially feed it off to one of his other line mates on the power play. It completely opens up a new avenue of wealth for this team to exploit. And I know Scheifele and Connor have led the way goal scoring there, and they're going to get, rightfully so, a lot of the credit for what they've done so far. But I don't think they're as successful if they don't have big number 13 in and around the crease there. You could maybe make the case he might be the most influential player on that entire power play because he's able to allow them to score from distance and then score from in close as well.
Yeah, it's really been a treat to watch, and it's amazing how it's been, the similar collection of players. You sprinkle in a little Nikolai Ehlers, and all of a sudden it's number 1 in the league. Davis Payne getting a lot of praise in our chat room, and again, amazing how this power play has been transformed for what you said, guys standing still, not moving, to a lot of movement, a lot of unpredictability, and again, a lot of, as you mentioned, scoring from distance with Scheifele and Connor, but also in close with Gabriel Vilardi. You mentioned Nikolai Ehlers, or at least I did, about his inclusion. When you see a player like Mikko Rantanen get traded on the weekend, who's an upcoming UFA, who's a big part of the Avalanche success, what did you think of that deal? And, could you see the Jets taking a similar stance where you trade a guy who's been a part of your team, who's a free agent after this season, and try to get something? Well, I don't even know if I don't think it makes the Avalanche better right now, but I think it better positions them going forward.
See, that's funny because I don't agree with that line of thinking. And I would say just because the Avs did it doesn't mean that the Winnipeg Jets or any other team should do it too. I can't, when that trade went down, and yes, it can work out, and maybe Nikash becomes, a 90, 100-point guy for them, and you get a little more depth with Drury there on the 4th line. But I just can't help but think once that trade went down, my honest thought, and that was that Colorado might have just kind of put a bit of a death blow to their legitimate cup contending stretch over the next little bit here. I get that there were concerns about him signing long-term. I get that there were concerns about what the dollar amount was going to be. But to me, having a trio, a core of McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen, that's as good as anybody in the NHL, and I think that's good enough to win Stanley Cups for you, even if the team wasn't as potent as they've been in years past. I don't think it was because, Mikko Rantanen's play. I think it's because they weren't able to kind of reload with a lot of the players that they lost after they won that first Stanley Cup a few years ago. So I guess when it comes to the Jets and how they deal with the Nikolai Ehlers situation, look, you've got a chance to win the cup with the group this year. It comes down to that. And it would be, to me, an unfathomable risk to move Nick Ehlers just because you don't want to lose him for nothing in the offseason potentially. Yes, you might be able to win that trade, but you're also talking about losing a secondary 5-on-5 scoring piece, somebody that is kind of unique to the team in terms of how they generate offense 5-on-5, and then also splitting up quite possibly the best power play in NHL regular season history. Like I'm not looking at, can we recoup some value here? What are we going to do in the offseason? I quite frankly don't care about that right now if you're in Winnipeg. It's just I would just be shocked. I would be shocked that there would be any discussions legitimately about thinking what we could do to move Nikolai Ehlers right now, because to me it's more about adding other pieces in and around him and the rest of the core group here to try to take a run at the Stanley Cup this year. But I think that as far as the Jets' future with the Colorado move, I don't know, man. I look at the division now, and especially this year, and I just can't help but think, like, if they can get past Dallas, they're the clear frontrunners in that Central Division. And once you get to the Final Four and the Western Conference Final, that's about as good of a spot as you could be in there. So I'm surprised. I don't think it's ultimately going to work out for Colorado, but love the aggressiveness from Eric Tulsky and that Carolina team there, and they might have solidified themselves as the beast to beat in the East right now. But I kind of think Winnipeg was done a bit of a favor by the trade over the past couple days, to be honest.
Yeah, you look at Colorado, they are first wild card spot, so they would play the second place team or the other division winner who's not the first place one in the Western Conference. Minnesota just got a blow as well. Kaprizov out 4 weeks. He's having surgery, suspected groin issue. And Dallas, I mean, they're pretty solid. Just they're behind the Jets. They do have 2 games in hand, but they're 8 points back. So still lower in the points percentage. So it seems like is this the year, Brandon, where the Jets finally are able to finish the season strong, grab hold of that Central Division banner, because you would have such a more favorable playoff matchup if you finish, first in the West rather than, second. Even though they don't have Rantanen, you wouldn't want to see Colorado again, or I guess maybe Minnesota could fall back as well. But I think important for them to just keep it rolling. I mean, plus 56 goal differential, far and away the best in the West.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because Edmonton's coming on pretty strong right now, and they're doing what they did last year, where maybe not as slow of a start, but a slow start, and they pick up steam as the season comes along there. So, yeah, it's going to be a dogfight between Edmonton, Vegas, and Winnipeg for top spot in the entire Western Conference there. But, I mean, you can't really control any of that if you're the Jets. All you can control really is just, are we going to finish first in the division? And Colorado would be it's a tough matchup. There's no doubt about that. Even if I don't like the trade, you can throw basically 2 of the 5 best players on the planet and have them play half the game if you want them to. And then that makes it already a tough matchup. And Jared Bednar is a hell of a coach, but I think it's more important, not necessarily to look at who do we face in the wild card spot, but it's we avoid Dallas in a first round matchup, and then we get home ice against Dallas if they advance in a second round matchup. So that's really all you can control to some extent if you're the Winnipeg Jets is like you said, they're finishing the second half of the season strong. I don't get the sense that we're going to see the same sort of malaise or collapse that's plagued this team in years past. It just seems like there's a different focus in this group. There's a different set of standards. They're being held accountable to a much higher degree. And I think the coaching staff has a good pulse on where this team is at and ultimately where they need to be. So if they don't get first of the division, it's because Dallas went supernova down the stretch. But I still find that hard to believe. I think the Jets are going to play at a good enough pace here with the cushion that they have to, at the very least, grab first in the division, second in the conference there. But yeah, I don't know. We've seen this team so far this year show similar maybe signs of weakness as they did last year, but they found ways to overcome it. They're doing a great job at problem solving either in game or in season this year. And I just don't get the sense that we're going to see a rough stretch, late February, early March that kind of brings everybody else closer to the top of the pack.
I feel like we've seen that before. They've certainly learned from their experience the last couple of years, and you hope that they would be able to hang on. It's funny, Edmonton seemed like, taking a slow start off the season, saying, hey, we were just in Game 7 of the Cup final. What is this, like October hockey? I can't get up for this.
Yeah.
And, they're finding their legs, and they'll pick it up. We'll see what happens at the trade deadline. Kevin Cheveldayoff met with Murat and Mike last week in the boardroom there in Denver, just doing a little mid-season overview. I mean, any takeaways from you from what he had to say, especially as we approach, the trade deadline here, about, 5-6 weeks away? It seems like they're ready to add something, and yeah, I guess you'd have to be prepared for a player if they aren't going to re-sign Nikolai Ehlers to him or any other UFAs. That's just the reality of being a good team. You're going to have to stick with your UFAs, and they'll walk if they walk, but they're going to be looking to add here at the deadline.
Yeah. I guess there were 2 things that kind of jumped out to me. One news, one maybe not so much, but you just kind of you always have to read between the lines with Chevy because rightfully doesn't give you much. He holds his cards close to the vest. It's annoying, but I mean, it's what a GM should do probably. I don't think we're going to see Nick Ehlers and Neil Pionk back next year. I think Murat very slyly kind of figured out a smart way to ask a question to get an answer on that. And it just seems like, you know what, they're going to take a run at it this year, and cap-wise, it's not going to work, and they're going to have to figure out how to bring in reinforcements next year. And so it does feel like, in a small way, maybe kind of like a last dance with this group. But the other thing being that, and this is the one thing that Chevy doesn't really shy away from, and that's if he thinks his team's good enough to win, he's going to make big moves at the deadline. That's his MO. It always has been. We'll see it for the first time, really, and I hope the Jets kind of go down this route, but to see if they go big with guys with term. I don't know how many times, as much as I love being aggressive and bringing in big pieces, I just don't know how many times you can go down the well of giving up first-round picks and maybe prospects for guys that are here for 2-3 months. If it is going to be some players brought in here, hopefully it's for multiple playoff runs here. But there's no doubt they're going about doing it. The interesting thing with Chevy too, though, is he always there's always a surprise name kind of thrown in there, right? There might be one or two targets that maybe are surface level, make a lot of sense, and kind of where the Winnipeg Jets like to go for. But I mean, you go back, nobody thought Paul Stastny was really on the market when they picked him up. They were kind of stealth targets for Kevin Hayes, even though it didn't work out. The Tyler Toffoli trade last year even almost, came out of nowhere seemingly. So I think there's one target that I am not going to be surprised to see the Winnipeg Jets pull in. But I do think we're going to see a name, and maybe it is up front, somebody that might not even be on a trade board somewhere, but has a bit of availability, and the Jets go out and find a way to make it work there. So that's kind of the intriguing thing here. Is it's not will he make a move? It's how many moves and how big and seismic are those moves ultimately going to be at the deadline? Yeah,
I'll say even though the Kevin Hayes trade, they got bounced in the first round, I thought he was the star of that Game 5 where, we all know we pulled the puck out of the net on the goal. Maybe it scores. Yeah. What would have happened there? Awesome. But we don't need to bring that up. But hey, if I had to ask you, you're the odds maker, Brandon. The Jets have first round picks, the next 3 years. I mean, what are the odds the 2025 first round pick gets traded? If you're making a trade bait board, are you putting the Jets first rounder on the block?
I think we're going to see the Winnipeg Jets trade their first rounder in 2026.
Okay.
And they're going to hold on to the 2025 one.
Wow.
That's my prediction on this. And I think you look at some of the sellers as well. Philadelphia comes to mind. Nashville comes to mind. A lot of the teams outside of the playoff race have multiple first round picks this upcoming draft. And I wonder if, for a lot of those teams, they might look at it and be like, 2026 makes a lot more sense to kind of, allow us to restock our cupboards and make sure we've got more picks coming in multiple years there. So I will be pretty surprised if the Jets do move away off of this year's first. But I do think that they're going to kind of try to have it both ways there, where they can make a pick of the first round this year, but they'll kind of already ship out their first rounder for next season.
I'm pulling up the TSN trade bait board as you just heard the autoplay ad that in the background. Who doesn't love autoplay on a website? It's everyone's favorite thing on the internet in 2025. But looking at the trade bait board, Brandon, as I bring it up here, 1 second. There we go. Here are the names. JT Miller, number 1. It seems like that's a done deal. Jim Rutherford coming out today in an interview with the Globe and Mail saying, something's got to be changed here. This isn't working. 2, Brock Nelson. 3, John Gibson. 4, David Savard. We'll see him tonight. Marcus Paterson. 5, 6, Scott Lawton. 7, Trent Frederick. 8, Yanni Gord. 9, Rasmus Ristolainen. 10, Elias Pettersson. I mean, which ones here you think the Jets have their eye on as we head towards March 7?
Yeah, I don't know if people are going to like this or not. I'm not saying this is what I would do necessarily, but I think what I don't know. I just kind of reading the tea leaves, seeing some of the smoke. I think my prediction right now is that the Jets trade their first rounder next year for Rasmus Ristolainen. I think they might be able to get some salary retained back in that deal, but I don't know. I just he's playing well now. I think Philly is cognizant of the fact that they're going to have to make a move similar to what they did last year with Sean Walker, where despite they're not as much in the playoff picture this year as last year, but essentially despite being in the playoff mix, that they're going to move off that for future assets. And I can't look past the fact that Chevy was pretty damn close to getting him in the first place a few years back when he was in Buffalo. And I just think that when GMs get a chance to grab a guy like the second time around, they don't often miss on that opportunity. I guess the good thing from a Winnipeg perspective is that he's a much better defenseman overall than he was back in Buffalo. He's, the point production isn't going to be there from him anymore. The flip side of that is he knows how to play hockey. They put a lot of work into this guy. He can play defense. He would add some much needed size and physicality to the Jets back end, but they're not just doing it for the sake of bringing in somebody that's a man mountain. He can actually, I think, contribute and help this team out in a big way. So that's going to be my ultimate prediction, is that they make the move there. I legitimately don't know what they're going to do up front. It's a weird kind of trade market right now, Remo, where there's some really big names that I think the Jets don't have the assets to compete with compared to other teams for really high-end guys. And there's not a ton of secondary options right now. So I wonder if maybe they go more towards the third-line center mold as opposed to looking to find an instant fit down the middle there. And maybe, Adam Lowry becomes that official guy. But I really don't know who that might be. I've liked Yanni Gourde for a while. I wonder what the price would be on him, but I don't get a good sense of what they're going to do up front. But I do think some big-time size and physicality is going to be priority number one on the back end for Chevy ahead of the trade deadline.
I do enjoy comparing trade boards. It's counting down to March 7, the trade deadline. Everyone's got the trade board. You got to come up with a name. TSN's got trade bait. Frank Cervelli's got his trade targets. The Athletic has the trade big board. But, Frank's got a bit of a different board. He's got Brock Nelson, number one, Yanni Gourde, Taylor Hall, he got traded, Ryan Lindgren, Dylan Cousins, Joel Farabee, Bowen Byram, Provorov, Brandon Tanev, and he's got Ristolainen in 10. Do they have assets to acquire a player with term? Because then you're looking at trading a player maybe like a Cole Perfetti, or one of their are they going to be trading a prospect like a Brad Lambert? I mean, what kind of value does he have, or anyone else? You saw like Billy Handel. Is he even a prospect anymore? Maybe a couple of years ago, his name would have been floated at the deadline, but I mean now he's kind of just a depth defenseman. So, do they have what it takes to get a player with term, or are they just looking at some UFAs here?
Depends on the player. I don't think they're in the running for Miller or Paterson. Cousins would be ideal, but I don't know. I mean, would Buffalo be interested in a Cole Perfetti first round pick prospect package? I just look at what some other teams might be able to offer there, and I don't know if Winnipeg can really hang with the big fish in terms of bringing in a legitimate top end type of talent. But I mean, Ristolainen has term, whether people like it or not, and I don't think that's going to cost you a Perfetti or to me that's in and around first round value from what we've seen at previous deadlines. And I don't know if you're getting a guy that's a solid centerman, but isn't breaking the bank for you there. It might not cost you Cole Perfetti. I don't think it will. I also don't think the Jets are going to shy away from potentially dangling him in a trade to help the team. I don't look at it in the same vein as the Nikolai Ehlers situation because the Jets would be, seemingly thinking that they could move Perfetti to upgrade their team right now. But I think there is certainly a universe where they can keep Cole and bring in a couple pieces that don't subtract from the group that they have right now. And some of those guys might have a bit of term on their deals. So it's possible. I don't really envision a scenario where it's legitimate, like the top of the market guys. But you know what? Those moves don't always equate to a Stanley Cup either. So it might not be the worst thing in the world for the Jets to avoid that. But I think Chevy's got his targets. I think Jets fans will be pleasantly surprised with how the new additions do come in and fit with this group here. The intriguing thing is going to be too, like, do they do this right at the deadline? Is it going to happen shortly after the Four Nations tournament to kind of get a jump on things? That part of it is intriguing as well, how the whole league decides to activate the trade market there. But I think there's more than enough guys available with term that Chevy can make some moves and still maybe keep the majority, if not all, of his high-end assets.
Yeah, just looking at one of the better deadline deals they made, February 25, 2023, Nino Niederreiter for a 2024 second-round pick. That trade looking pretty good. He had another year remaining in addition to that year, and they did sign him to a 3-year deal on top of that. And, I mean, Dylan Cousins, he's got 5 years remaining, $7.1 million AAV. It's pretty high AAV for a guy making who's got 20 points in 41 games.
I'll say this, Remo,
he's
though.
23. He's 23, yeah.
There might not be a safer bet in all of sports than acquiring a Sabres star that's down on his luck. So
yes.
It would cost a lot. The contract's worth a lot, but that's you're batting close to 1,000 with getting guys out of Buffalo right now. So just keep that in mind if it's a big deal there.
Yeah, is there a Sabre? You know that the Browns have that jersey of all the quarterbacks. Is there a list of a jersey with all the Sabres players who've won Stanley Cups after leaving? Who's on there? Ryan O'Reilly.
You got O'Reilly, you got Eichel, you got Reinhart.
Reinhart, yeah, that's those are some big names. And you look at the Sabres roster from like 5 years ago, all those players went on to have on success. Brandon, you have to go now, right? 2:00. I think the bell has rung.
Yeah.
The time is up. Well, Brandon, thanks a lot for coming on. If you want to plug, got anything to plug? Skates and Plates, new episodes coming out. You and Tyson chopping it up there?
Yeah. We'll have a new one out on Friday morning. So, talk. I think it's Bruins Jets on Thursday night. So, talk about that one. And, whatever else, who knows, might be a couple mega deals in the NHL over the next few days here. So, we'll come out with a new episode on Friday there. And then I'm actually off to Montreal next week. So, I think the Habs conveniently are going on a West Coast road trip. So, I will enjoy the Bell Center view from afar, but not in close. But excited to do that.
You're a bit early for Four Nations. Couldn't squeeze that in.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen anyways. So it's we make do with what we have over here, especially with the young ones, Remo.
I hear you. Well, there you go, Brandon. Stay healthy. I know they've got young kids.
Yeah, you too.
They go to school. They're gonna get sick this time of year. Thanks again, Brandon. Great talking to you.
Beauty. Thanks, guys. We'll talk soon.
There he is, Brandon Rewucki, Skates and Plates podcast. He is on X, Brandon_Rewucki. Here, we got Hustler. Here, we'll do first. We're going to touch with Montreal, Shaun Starr, TSN 690, Shaun Starr Show. But first, here is Hustler.
Do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Princess Auto, founded in Winnipeg, headquartered in Winnipeg, now coast to coast, but with 3 Winnipeg locations to serve you. Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete those projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop down to the location on Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or for the folks in Westmount in Brandon, and check it all out for you. And of course, you can get working 24/7, 365 on those ideas by checking out the Princess Auto website and shopping online as well. Be a minute before we're at Princess Auto Stadium, but we've got that bomber schedule, so we'll count down to the days. And in the meantime, pop by your local Princess Auto today. Got to give a big cheers to our friends at Canadian Club, Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey. Speaking of Princess Auto Stadium, Canadian Club, of course, is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Looking forward to seeing and cheersing many of you in the north end of the stadium at some point next year. But in the meantime, 12 months a year, Canadian Club is Canada's favorite original Canadian whiskey since 1848. Pop by your local Manitoba liquor marts and look for the Canadian Club display featuring Canadian Club Classic, Canadian Club 100% Rye, and more. And when you're popping by your local beer store, keep your eyes out for Canadian Club and ginger ale, pre-mixed cocktails in cans available at vendors throughout the city. Also want to thank our friends at Wallace & Wallace for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Wallace & Wallace has been the fencing and overhead door specialists and leaders since 1946, serving both commercial and residential customers. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, Wallace & Wallace has every kind you could possibly need. Vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences. And if in 2025 you might be thinking of a new overhead garage door for your home, talk to the gang at Wallace & Wallace. They have Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors, which means they'll have one to perfectly match your home and look great and add value to your home as well. Give Wallace & Wallace a call, 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to pop down and arrange a time to come out and see you and give you a free estimate. You can also check them out online at wallacefences.com, wallacedoors.com, or pop down and see them at their showroom on Lowson Crescent, just off of Kenaston.
There's us. We'll catch up with him later in the week. He's in Costa Rica, so that'll be on tap some point here. But Jets, Habs tonight. Montreal, they've been hot since they last played the Jets in December. 13-4-2 since that loss. We're going to get some insight on the Canadiens play. We're going to hear about our old friend Patrick Laine, but I'm super pumped to be joined by Shaun Starr, TSN 690 Montreal Morning Show. And he's on YouTube here with the Shaun Starr Show. Link in the description, or search for Shaun Starr with 2 R's here. And joining us now, here we go. Shaun, how's it going here on a Tuesday?
Michael, good to see you. And thanks for the plug as always. I try to keep it simple here for everybody. My name is Shaun Starr. It's my real name. So why not just call it the Shaun Starr Show? You know, when I got into terrestrial radio, we were deciding to name the show. You're going to be shocked when I tell you what we named it. It's the morning show. So I'm very consistent. We're very simple people here.
Shaun Starr. Hey, you know what? I've met people who work in radio, and I've come to learn that some people don't use their real name, but you and I, the two dummies out here, using our real names.
That's right. That's right. Not smart enough to come up with something. I mean, Shaun Starr, Michael, no disrespect, but Shaun Starr is a pretty good radio name. Very lucky.
that is a pretty good name. Well, we got Jets and Habs tonight. They last played in December, Canada Life Center, with the Jets winning 4-2. I remember on the Habs side, Lane Hutson had his first career goal, but since that game, Montreal 13-4-2. They hadn't lost back-to-back games until the last 2 games. I mean, what changed for them after that loss?
Playing Winnipeg. Playing the wagon that is the Winnipeg Jets, so deep, so talented in goal. And we'll see another rematch tonight with Connor Hrabchak, of course, because he didn't play in the last game for the Winnipeg Jets. So you can bet your bottom dollar he's playing against Montreal at the Bell Center on this Tuesday night. But what's changed for the Montreal Canadiens' confidence, Michael? They've bought into Martin St. Louis' system. They've learned that they have a standard that they can raise their level to. And while you talk about the record with the 13 dubs since they last played the Winnipeg Jets, which I think a lot of people in this market have pinpointed on that, December 14th game, if memory serves me right, as more or less the turning point of the Canadian season. And a fun little fact here about that 13-win run this team has been on since they last played the Jets, 10 of those wins have been come from behind style. So the Montreal Canadiens, one of their trends has been giving up a lot of shots. It's like 100. They gave up 100 shots, more or less, to the Devils on Saturday night, but they fought back, and they showed their mettle. They really did, considering how they were flat in the previous game, and that has been the very positive trend that's developed since that Winnipeg Jets game in mid-December of this team really believes in itself, and much like the Jets have the best, most consistent together line with the number one unit there with Vilardi and Scheifele. The fact that the Montreal Canadiens have been leaning upon some of their better players consistently for the better part of 6 to 7 weeks now brings a lot of people in the Montreal market a lot of hope about the direction that this team is taking.
Yeah, it's funny. Mark Scheifele, picked it up since not being named to Team Canada. Do you see the same thing from Cole Caulfield on his way to a career high in goals, and Nick Suzuki, if I recall, it didn't even get called to tell him he didn't make the team.
Yeah, you know what, man? Like, such nonsense. Let's call it. Like, what's going to happen? Nick Suzuki hypothetically, he's got 50 points in 49 games. So let's say he really goes on a heater. Let's say he finishes with 90 points. What, Canada's not going to come calling for him come Olympic time? Like, what are these threats? If you don't answer the call in the summer, we're never going to call you again. Like, what does that mean? You're going to do that to Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon too? Is that really? You're going to do that to Cale Makar, big boys? I don't think so, Timmy. So it's nonsense to me. And you're right to point out the trends that Mark Scheifele's game, Nick Suzuki's game, 50 points in 49 games. Cole Caulfield on 25 goals, on pace for 42 this season, which takes me back, Michael, to my original point about the belief, the hope that's been provided to this market based on that number one line's performance. So, like, you know it, man, and I know it too, and most people watching, listening right now know it as well. These athletes thrive under the pressure of, you can't do it. You're not good enough. I don't believe you. Well, the Team Canada basically said that to the three guys we're talking about, and now look what's going on. We're talking about, obviously Winnipeg has been, if not the best team, one of the best teams in hockey all year long, 71 points, tied with Washington. And the Montreal Canadiens, points-wise, in the last 6 weeks have been one of the best teams in hockey. So not a coincidence. I can directly connect those dots, Michael.
It's interesting seeing the list of players, the snubs. Scheifele on there, Suzuki, Zach Hyman, who are playing so well since being named, and even Gabriel Vilardi, probably not mentioned at all. But he's Canadian. He's definitely up there too on the top line for the Jets. We mentioned the Jets. What's the perception of the Jets coming in tonight? Always nice to hear some out of market praise.
Absolutely. Full respect to the Winnipeg Jets. I made a case on the Shaun Starr show last week. I want the Montreal Canadiens to come after your guy. I want Nick Ehlers on the Montreal Canadiens, based on Ehlers asking Patrick Laine for a Canadiens jersey, based on the fact that those two guys are comfy, cozy. They're pretty tight. Nick Ehlers is, to me, always been my favorite style of player. Can take penalties, can score goals, isn't intimidated, can be an intimidator on the ice, with Nemestikov obviously playing a key part in the depth of the Winnipeg Jets. And the number one line, as we spoke about, all the data on the number one line in Winnipeg showed us it's the most together line. They don't get broken up, and they obviously produce at a very high level. But on the other side of that coin, Michael, when we talk about the Winnipeg Jets, outside of the Winnipeg market, are they the Boston Bruins of last year, 2 years ago, whenever it was, when they reset the record book with how many points and how many dubs they had, and the unbelievable goaltending tandem they had in doing all that work? When I was looking up the Winnipeg Canadiens game, getting ready, and seeing obviously how good and consistent the Jets are. They have one road win in their last three, but it's all good. They win everywhere they go. I couldn't help but notice the amount of games played and the amount of W's Connor Hrabchak has, and I was like, wait, like, it's January 28th today. That's a lot of W's with a lot of hockey left to be played. So I don't know. Are you guys, let me flip it to you. You guys in Winnipeg talking about peaking too early as we get close to February? Is that something that's at front of mind, or is in the back of your mind somewhere that is like, oh, we don't want to be the Bruins, President's Trophy, all the dubs, and then worst case scenario, a first round exit, right?
Yeah, I think this is something that's in the back of everyone's mind, going back a number of years. 2019, I think in January, they were, leading the conference, first in the division, had a big fall off, lost in the first round to the Blues. They had a big second half slump and had to squeak into the playoffs. And Rick Bonus's first year as head coach, and they lost to Vegas. And last year just steamrolled by Colorado in round one, which I think has left a very bad taste in everyone's mouth. So, you're enjoying the ride. I mean, they're winning, just about every game at home. The game, it's fun to go with. They're a very exciting team, but it's hard not to have in the back of your mind, okay, like, let's see what they do in the playoffs. So you do want to enjoy, I think you want to enjoy the ride. You're trying to park those emotions and live in the moment, but it's certainly, I think they're just going back past years, past second half slumps. This team does seem different, but we were not going to have those questions answered until April and the first round's over. As for Connor Hrabchak, I think those questions, arise all the time. Is he playing too much? Is he not? You look at what Bobrovsky did last year on the way to Stanley Cup, win for Florida. He played a similar number of games that can be done. Maybe some more concern with the Four Nations, but it's like 4 games over a 2-week period.
Exactly.
They seem to have it mapped up. He's at 39 games right now. He played 60 last year. 2 years ago he played 66. Maybe that's too much, but they seem to have a plan and they're sticking to it. And we'll have to trust that they know what they're doing. As far as his playoff performance, a lot of people are going to talk about that, but I think the team just got steamrolled, and every goal was back to back, side to side tap in, one timer goals, a lot of tip goals. So they'll have to figure out if they can stay within their defensive structure, no matter who the opponent is. And that's why finishing first in the Central for them so important, because Colorado is first wild card right now. It would be much better to play Calgary, or who's currently in that spot, than Minnesota, Dallas, Colorado, who are in their division. So that's a long way of answering your question, but I think that is there. But we are here. We're enjoying the ride, and going to be enjoying. I always like when the Jets go to Montreal. Great fans. And you mentioned the Jets goaltending. I had to ask you about the Habs goaltending, because it's Jacob Dobbs. Is that how you pronounce it?
Dobesh.
Jakob or Jacob?
Jakob Dobesh.
Okay, 5-0-1, 193 goals against, 933 save percentage. Those are unbelievable numbers, but we're not going to be seeing him tonight. It's Sam Montembeault starting. What do you make of the Canadiens' goaltending? Has that played a huge part in their 13-4-2 run since the loss to the Jets?
They needed something other than what they had with Sam Montembeault and Caden Primo. Caden Primo, who's now back in the American Hockey League, and weirdly enough, couldn't stop a beach ball at the NHL level. Nothing gets by him in the American Hockey League level. And then they bring up Jakob Dobesh, who comes from the NCAA route, played for the Ohio State University, and has caught fire. And, for those that are interested in the Montreal Canadiens and you want to dip into my channel on YouTube, you can see some of the stuff I talk about as it relates to Jakob Dobesh. And just listen to me here before you jump in and crush me. He reminds me of Patrick Waugh. The attitude, the off the ice stuff, the swagger, the confidence, what he says, how he says it, his inner belief, the honesty when he looks back on his last start against the Detroit Red Wings in a game in which the Canadiens lost on a Thursday night on the road, and he let in a soft goal and the Canadiens were down 2-0, and as they often do, have to play catch up. And he admitted after the game that he's got to make that stop. But here's the money part, that this kid bears down, man. He gets better. He is a gamer for the Montreal Canadiens. And, Sam Montembeault, I wouldn't say is a number one. He's a number one in the context of he's sharing the net. A 55-45 kind of situation, not even a 60-40 to hell no to a 70-30 split, right? That tight of a margin. And I know, you gave us the sample size, Michael, the 5-0-1 record for Jakob Dobesh. I personally believe it's a mistake to start Sam Montembeault against the Winnipeg Jets at the Bell Center. I would have gone with Jakob Dobesh. The team, since the 28th of December when the Canadiens came out of their Christmas break, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. The team in multiple areas, full stop, plays better with Jakob Dobesh behind them than they have with Sam Montembeault since the 28th of December, when Jakob Dobesh was more or less brought here because Caden Primo couldn't keep the job. And so the expected goals for, the opportunity to protect the slot are all. I mean, they're giving up with Jakub Dobeš 4 fewer slot shots per game with Jakub Dobeš than they are with Sam Montembeault. So they clearly have a different structure with Dobeš behind them. And I'm no goalie whisperer. I'm no NHL savant. I cannot explain that. So please don't follow up with why, because I do not know why. It's just clearly evident. And as much as I like Dobeš's attitude and the confidence in himself, and the team has confidence in him too, that it was an opportunity, I believe, considering, Montreal's plays Winnipeg on Tuesday, then they have another tough Western Conference team on Thursday at home against Minnesota. So this team has had 2 winless verdicts consecutively. I think it was a great opportunity for Martin St. Louis to throw in a kid with confidence and the inner belief that he can win against anybody in any situation. And so I thought they took the safe choice. And it has definitely, without question, been a turning point to the Montreal Canadiens being so good in the last 7 weeks because they finally have stable goaltending. Sam Montembeault, Michael, played 10 consecutive games because Kaden Primo was just full stop untrustworthy. Trust is everything. Reliability is everything at this level.
Yeah, it was Marty St. Louis announcing this morning that, yes, Montembeault in the net. And, has there been a lot of schedule talk around Montreal? It seems to something that dominated here in November. I know Ottawa went through it. I'm looking at, the past, couple weeks, it's every second night, and it doesn't seem to let up for them until the break.
And it's wild. It's wild because I know, and it's the same for everybody. It's not like, the league is out to get Montreal and the schedule makers have a vendetta against the Canadiens. So like Four Nations is coming on the 12th. And then they get back to action on the 22nd of February. And so when we look at the schedule, and quickly, if you go through it, the Canadiens play on a Monday, they're back on Wednesday. Then they play on Friday. They haven't had like 2 full days off, and today is the first time. They played and lost to the Devils on Saturday. They didn't practice on Sunday. They practiced on Monday, and it's a game day on Tuesday. So the Canadiens have not had the opportunity to practice. They finally had a full-on practice where they did a bunch of game simulations on Monday to prepare for the juggernaut that is the Winnipeg Jets at the Bell Center tonight. And so you combine all of those things, the congested schedule, the quality of the opposition. Look, the graphics up there right now. Look at those teams. Look at those teams they had to play. Right? Like it's nonstop, home and home with Dallas, Detroit on the come up since they got their new coach. New Jersey's a cup contender. The Maple Leafs are a top team in the Eastern Conference. Jets tonight, Wild on Thursday. Like it does not end for a team that's in year 3 of a rebuild, in a team that's so young, with goaltending trying to find their way. And full credit to the Canadiens. It's not lucky Luke here that they've managed to beat who they've beaten. These are full value victories for a very young and now a very confident team. But without question, the schedule, the opposition, and the never-ending gauntlet of tough teams has definitely played a part in the Canadiens not starting and looking a little sluggish at times recently.
Yeah, I'll have to see how they start tonight. I know everyone in the chat here is saying, ask about Laine. I have to ask about Patrick Laine, 12 goals, 6 assists, 18 points in 21 games. Been in and out of the lineup. How would you characterize his season?
Another, we can look back to that month of December when Patrick Laine was healthy and returned to the lineup and scores. And he has been another TSN turning point, if I can phrase it that way, to help explain why the Montreal Canadiens are back in the mix in the Eastern Conference standings and what is a crazy every night out of town scoreboard watching race. And, it's nice to see that Patrick Laine's confidence is growing. Like he looks very comfortable. He looks very at ease. Like I don't know what happened, but it's clear to me he did not like his time in Columbus. He could not wait to get out of there. And, I think Montreal in the here and now has breathed fresh air into this guy's hockey career. And, he was obviously the king on the power play, but now he's starting to balance out a little bit more. He's scored a couple of nice even strength goals. He set up a beauty winner for Jake Evans in an overtime game recently. And so we're seeing more pace to his game. The shot is the shot. I mean, every Jets diehard watching, listening knows exactly what I'm talking about when we describe Patrik Laine's release when he does get the puck to him. But the vision is there, and I really like the pace because early on I was like, oh, damn. Like, guys have to slow down so Laine can kind of keep up. That's really not happening lately. And unfortunately for Patrik Laine, not everything's been perfect. He's made a couple of bad decisions, but again, like I'm nitpicking here. Nobody plays a perfect game all of the time, and a couple of those decisions have resulted in shorthanded goals against Detroit. And Patrik Laine put Mike Matheson in a tough spot Saturday against New Jersey, which resulted in Jack Hughes going in on a 2-on-0 and beating the Canadiens in overtime.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing that release tonight. Every time it does amaze you.
Are you really? Are you really looking forward to it?
Well, not against the Jets, but
right.
I mean, when he was here, you'd see him, and your eyes would just pop out of your head. It was very fun to watch. Well, I mean, Montreal, they're 2 points out of a playoff spot?
Oh, dude, listen. If you go back to that Thursday game against Detroit, right?
Yeah.
The Canadiens had a 5-point cushion on the Red Wings going into that game. Okay? They win in regulation. 7 points. They lose the game, right? They lose the game. It goes from 5-3. Detroit wins against LA on a Monday night. Even Stevens. That's how fast it can go in this. It's so much pressure. It's so fun to watch. Watching the out-of-town scoreboard in January. Michael, you don't relate to this. Your Winnipeg team's very good. Montreal's been very bad for a while. Like, for us in January to talk about, could the Canadiens play the Leafs in the first round? Instead of, are the Canadiens going to draft this guy from Shabugamu in July? Like, oh my God. Thank you. I'm so here for this.
Yeah, you're not running the draft lottery simulator, but
No.
I imagine it being so close to a playoff spot, the trade deadline conversations they're having, are they different than what you would have expected coming into the year? Or, I know they got a couple UFAs, Dvorak, Armia, Evans, and David Savard would be the big ones.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. So if you head over to the Shaun Starr Show on YouTube, I've got some stuff on trades coming. The Montreal Canadiens, as we've learned, are getting calls for David Savard, whose ice time is on the decline. What I think could realistically happen is I can see David Savard getting moved between now and March 7th, and the Montreal Canadiens going out and exploring options on the right side. They have options with their American Hockey League affiliate with the Laval Rocket, so there's options there. So there's part of me that believes, and Jeff Gorton, the vice president of the Montreal Canadiens, has hinted at the fact that he might help his team by adding before March 7th to see if this team needs a little extra help to get them over the hump, to give them a little boost of confidence. But without question, the Canadiens are in a tricky spot now, as you alluded to, correctly so. The big UFA names, with the Canadiens very much in the mix, and the fact that those guys that you talk about primarily, Armia, Dvorak, and Evans, play very heavy minutes. They play dirty minutes, as I like to call them. They're fantastic in goal prevention and shorthanded situations, and the Montreal Canadiens are in the mix. So there's no world in my mind in which Montreal stays in the mix and loses Armia or Evans in a trade between now and the 7th of March, right? So you're going to essentially risk perhaps losing them for nothing, or seeing if there's a negotiation window there that these guys are happy to stay with the Montreal Canadiens organization, because I'm not so sure that Oliver Kapanen and Owen Beck, options for the Montreal Canadiens at the minor league level, are going to be able to recover for Evans and Armia, gone for greener pastures and bigger dollars, leaving open spots for the Montreal Canadiens. I can't see that happening today. So it's a very, very tricky spot. You want to reward a young team for all their unbelievable hard work and defying expectations. And personally, I'd like to see the Montreal Canadiens go the entire way. And let's see what they can do between, now and the end of February. Are they still in the mix or not? And I think that will help make decisions easier for the Canadiens management.
Yeah, I do wonder if David Savard's a guy who'd look good here, bottom defenseman, right shot.
Well, I wanted to ask you, right? Because the other talking point on my side of this country, as we talk about Winnipeg, right, is, as we alluded to already, Connor Hrabchak peaking too early, that type of stuff. And when I look at Winnipeg, and I know because I can relate to this having watched Carey Price forever. Carey Price is your stud defenseman, basically. Connor Hrabchak is your stud defenseman. But Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk, after that, I mean, you talk to me about that and the confidence and the depth that once those guys get off the ice, what's that look like for Winnipeg? Is that a legitimate concern?
Yeah, I think Dylan Sandberg, he's really taken a step forward this year. He was on the third pair last season, and he missed some time with a broken foot, and their penalty kill suffered. Their defense suffered. I think he's a player, not a lot of people around the league maybe notice, but as a defenseman, blocks shots, again, plays on the penalty kill. I think no concern with him. I think it's that bottom pair. They've been shuffling guys in and out. Logan Stanley was a first-round pick, like 10 years ago, and they still talking about him trying to develop. But they're looking to, shore up the bottom pair, D for sure. And Neil Pionk, he's having a great offensive season. But when he's been away from Sandberg, his play hasn't been as strong. It's funny, they're both from the same town in Minnesota, Hermantown. But I think bottom defensemen, they're looking to improve, and second or third line center would be ideal. They did try Adam Lowry as second line center, but he got hurt, so he won't be in the lineup. That seemed to work. And you mentioned Ehlers. I mean, he just had a fantastic game. It was Friday. He had a 3-point night. So
that's my guy. That's my future Hab. I'm telling you.
I can see people in the chat they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that.
But I know I'm trolling. I am trolling 100%. Guilty as charged.
Well, Shaun, it's been a great conversation so far. Before we go to Ask Four Nations in Montreal, did see some reports about lack of ticket sales. Is there any buzz at all for this event?
Bro, have you looked at the tickets? Have you looked at tickets?
I looked at the cheapest one.
This drives me crazy, okay? How do you buy tickets? You can't go to fournations.com. If you go to NHL.com, first thing that pops up at the bottom is Four Nations Tournament. VIP, click here. Individual tickets, click here. You click on individual tickets. You know where that takes you? It takes you to hell. The pits of hell. Ticketmaster.ca, brother. The pits of hell. Where service charges just for clicking on welcome to the website, And what did I see? I was looking yesterday. It's $180. It's $360. I'll round up. I think it was $356 for a pair of tickets, tax and service charges in to sit in the frickin' nosebleeds. You sit in the nosebleeds for $360, and you get two seats. And you get a roof over your head. You haven't put anything in your belly. I don't know where you parked your car, So, I mean, I'm trying not to be a sensitive person, but it is so. I find it so offensive, man. I find it so offensive that this Four Nations face-off, best on best, really best on best. Where's Czechia? Where's Slovakia? Where's Russia? Best on best. Okay, sure. But $360, man, and heaven forbid you want a half decent seat in the house. Double the price. For what? How long's a hockey game? 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. I don't know. I don't want to judge anybody. You spend your money how you want to spend your money. You earned every single dollar in your pocket, I hope. So you get to decide how you spend your entertainment money. But in my head, I can think of other things I'd rather do than sit in an arena for 2.5 hours and watch Canada USA. No disrespect, but like I can watch on TV, go to my bathroom, go to my fridge. I got my dog on my lap, man. Like, and I'll keep the money in my pocket and go fly out to Winnipeg so I can play golf with you and Hustler.
Yeah, there you go. I just looked it up. Yeah, it just comes out to over 400. Last row at the Bell Center, Canada, USA.
I mean, could they not have structured this any other way? Could you not have bundled tickets together? Like, and these are 8 o'clock puck drops. Like, how are you going to get there with your family? Like, who are you? Are you on Shark Tank? Are you on Dragon's Den? Who's affording these tickets, Michael?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what the reception is, how it's going to play out. I imagine once they drop the puck, you see these great players are going to get excited. Yeah. But I think there's a number of reasons going against it. as they lead in. You can't even buy the jerseys right now too, which seems
I'm excited.
strange.
I'm excited for the hockey. I'm excited to see Canada USA. Tkachuk and McDavid and McKenna. I'm excited for the games, but I'm not a 1%er, brother. I'm not selling blood to go see Nathan McKinnon at the Bell Center.
I hear you. We need you got to get a couple more YouTube likes and subscribes to afford to go to those games. That's a cue. It's cue to everyone in chat. We need your help. Tell YouTube we're putting out some good content. But check out Shaun Starr on YouTube. Shaun Starr Show. That's 2 R's. And he's on TSN 690. Shaun, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great talking Habs, Jets, little Four Nations. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, go Bears. And next time we chat, I'll have my Nick Ehlers Habs jersey on.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I'm sure everyone's enjoying that. Thanks again, Shaun. See ya.
Thanks, Michael.
A big cheers from our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Hey, folks, not only is Boston Pizza your best place in town to gather with your gang for Winnipeg Jets hockey games with pick-a-player contests and chance to win great prizes and swag from Royal Sports, not only is Boston Pizza your number one spot to get together for NFL playoff games and all the big sporting events in the lounge, January is also the month where every single day is Pasta Tuesday at Boston Pizza. Enjoy until the end of the month. Great deals on all your favorite pasta dishes at your local Boston Pizza with Pasta Tuesday promos every single day, 7 days a week at your local Boston Pizza. Pop in today. And of course, if you can't make it or it's a little too cold to get outside, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door. The great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And a huge shout out to our friends at Royal Sports for 40 years plus. Family owned and operated, the number one hockey and sports superstore in town. If you play hockey or have a hockey player in the family, you probably already know that Royal Sports is your one-stop shop for full equipment, goalie gear, sticks, skates, right down to stick tape, pucks, and skate sharpening. But I will remind you, as we look outside and the river trail is absolutely mint right now, many people not necessarily needing an expensive pair of hockey skates, just want to go out and make the most of Winnipeg winter. Royal is the best place in town for some affordable recreational skate options that won't set you back maybe the same amount of that a pair of the blades that the pros use. Get on down there. While you're at it, check out all the best selection of Winnipeg Jets merchandise, Bomber gear, NFL, NHL, you name it, they've got it. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Don't forget to check out all the cool stuff on the King Skate, Snow, and Surf side. And give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops, specials, and sale information. Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Great sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk.
All right, there's Huss. Hey, he'll be back eventually. I'm in the host chair now, so thanks everyone for tuning in. Love to see everyone in the chat. Love to see all the positive responses for our last guest, Shaun Starr Show on TSN morning show on TSN 690, and Shaun Starr Show here on YouTube. The link is in the description. Let me bring back Connor because I got to ask him the fans feedback question of the day as I get this all loaded in here. Connor, how have you been the last bit here? One sec. Where is Connor? Are you still in here? I got you.
I'm still in here. I'm here.
Okay, what's going on, Connor?
Doing great. Last two conversations I really enjoyed sitting here watching with Brandon and then Shaun. And yeah, I saw some people in chat saying they're more fired up for this game now with Shaun and all the passion that he brought for this matchup tonight. He's fired up, and I'm fired up. Let's do it.
Sure. And I wanted to ask you, I was talking to Brandon about the Jets power play. So much talk about how it's number one. You got a favorite part? What's your favorite part of the Jets power play here?
Davis Payne. No, I'm kidding. I'll say the players, actually. Gabe Vilardi. I think he's just unstoppable at the side of the net. Lishit and I did a deep dive on the power play in November. If you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend. It was a great precursor to what we've seen over the last month and a bit with this red hot power play. But we talked about Vilardi and all the different things he can do at the side of the net. And I dropped kind of a take that I think he's the best power play threat the Jets have had since Patrick Laine. And that's just looking better and better by the day, in my opinion. I mean, Nikolai Ehlers being on the top unit has revitalized that unit, but I still think Gabe Vilardi is the guy that draws defenders to him, opens things up, and when you leave him open, like Calgary did on that one play, he's able to make defenders pay and make goaltenders look silly in really tight spaces. So I'm going to go with Vilardi. What about you?
What about Nikolai Ehlers finally getting used, making passes, moving the puck around, being the straw that stirs the drink of the power play? Him on the zone entries, Mr. Do-It-All. But here, let's hear what Davis Payne has to say about the power play. This is from yesterday after the skate.
Yeah, there's not a lot of focus on end results. We basically stick to the process about what we want to do, how we want to do it, and we've got good players out there that are finishing off plays. A lot of it is work done without the puck and without the play. Something we take a great deal of pride in, and we just want to make sure we're continuing to focus on how we do things more so than end results.
There's Davis Payne, and yes, a lot of talk about Gabriel Vilardi, what he is capable of doing. Here's Davis Payne on Vilardi's role in the success he's having this season.
Well, you want to put each of your guys in the best position to use their skill sets, and we feel like we've done that to the most part, both units. And a lot of times it depends on how the other team is going to defend situations where we feel we can attack with different options. And if they give us space in one area, that's where we're going. If they take away space or a different option, then we feel like we've got enough guys out there that can do a lot of different things and do a lot of different things quickly. And that's where we would game plan towards. Guys have done a real good job about being receptive and recognizing how those plays need to be made based on how we feel we can attack a certain penalty kill.
I think that's one thing that makes it so successful. You heard him say it there. I mean, they're not trying to do the same thing over and over every time, trying to force plays. They're looking at what the opposition is giving them and trying to figure out how to, best attack that and how to utilize each individual's skill set, Connor. And we're looking forward to seeing what this power play can do tonight against Montreal.
Yeah, and the maximizing each of their strengths, I couldn't agree with you more, Remo. And last year when the Jets traded for Sean Monahan, it felt like there was a way for them to score, and the power play did get better, but it was very predictable. It was the triangle with Scheifele on the half wall, Vilardi at the side of the net, and Monahan in that pop bumper position. And that was the only way they were going to score, is through Monahan or through Vilardi making a special play at the side of the net. Now they're scoring in many, many different ways. Nikolai Ehlers in the middle of the ice, Gabe Vilardi in the pop position, Gabe Vilardi in front of the net. Kyle Connor one-timer. They're scoring off the rush. The Calgary game, Gabe Vilardi comes in off the rush, and it's a 3-on-2. So why stop and set up and wait for the perfect shot and pass when you can just attack off the rush and Mark Scheifele shoots at 5-hole and you're scoring a power play goal. It doesn't matter how. And that was one thing that when Davis Payne was brought in, Ottawa, he was with Ottawa for the past number of seasons. I think it was 5. Ottawa would always lead the league, or they were high in the league in shots for on the power play. They were shooting a ton. They were a high volume power play. And I think that that's really changed this year for the Jets. They are attacking. You hear Scott Arniel talk about the attack mentality all the time. They're not sitting around. They're not looking, waiting, passing, waiting for the perfect pass, standing stationary. They are attacking. They're shooting a ton of pucks on net. And when you do that, more threats open up because of it. And they're scoring in so many diverse ways, playing into everyone's strengths. It's a joy to watch. And it's the biggest reason they're 33% on the power play so far this year.
Yeah, joy to watch. And here, one more from Coach Davis Payne. I know they have the Jack Adams for Coach of the Year, but surely if there was an assistant coach of the year trophy, you would hear his name mentioned. And here's just a little more on just specifically Gabe Vilardi, what he can do in front of the net there.
I mean, you look at his skill set, he's a big body guy with a really, really good set of hands. And not only can he make plays in tight areas, he can get the puck off his stick to different parts of the net. He's got composure in those areas, and he's gotten really comfortable in understanding the role inside the dots and below the hash marks and around the net, whether he's popping out or whether he's tight to the net. He's getting a better understanding of how he's going to create his look when it is his focus to the chances coming to him. He needs to, step forward and go ahead and be aggressive in those situations. So I think he's learning the league. He's learning his own capabilities. He's continuing to work on his game. He passes the puck extremely well. He's got great vision, as we saw last night. He can also shoot the puck, and he's not afraid to go into the blue paint to score goals. That's a pretty good recipe.
Certainly a pretty good recipe, Gabe Vilardi, and part of that recipe is health, and he's healthy this season on his way for a career year. And let's get to the fans' feedback, fans' first portion of the show. I did ask the chat. Well, here, let me do the little intro. Fans' feedback brought to you by Fans First, your best option for buying and selling tickets with no fees. What you see is what you pay. Certainly the best place if you have a pair of extra seats to get rid of them. I can tell you once in a while when I've got seats I need to buy or sell, utilizing Fans First. So user-friendly, the customer service so great, and you're getting paid the next day right after the game. I know Fans First, they've been pretty busy the last month. The Jets seemingly playing every night at home. No doubt about that. But hey, I asked the chat earlier, what do you love about the Winnipeg Jets power play? Miller Time 1980 says Vilardi at the net or the Connor 1T. Phyllis comments, we need to re-sign Davis Payne long term. He's turned our power play into our most lethal weapon. I don't think as coaches contracts on Puckpedia, but certainly look into that. And Stonewall Dave says Vilardi, the in-close spin. That's my favorite. And Simon LeBlanc adds in Morrissey as a quarterback, very underrated. Connor, we've talked about the power play. We've talked about Scheifele, Vilardi, Connor, Ehlers. Haven't mentioned Morrissey at all. And I think he's doing a bang-up job there. And you've seen him score a number of big slap shot goals this year as well. And that's fans feedback brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling tickets by fans, for fans with no fees. Nice little, hey, wasn't the power play just so great? Connor, 33%, number one in the NHL.
Yeah, and the past couple of years, it has not been that. So I couldn't agree more with the Davis Payne long term. Like this guy comes in and the power play goes from 22nd to first. And if things held the way they were today, the best power play in NHL history, the record is 32.4%. Jets are currently at 33.3%. That'll be something to watch down the stretch, as well as the Central Division race and the Western Conference and the President's Trophy and the Jack Adams and the Hart and the Vezina and all the other things. Will the Jets finish with the best power play in the league, in league history? Will they be up there? It'll be really interesting. And Davis Payne, he's might be the midseason MVP up there with Connor Hrabchak. I don't know.
Put him in there. I agree. Put him in there. Moving on from the Jets, Connor, there's a couple around the league topics. Came out yesterday. Alex Pietrangelo not going to play for Canada in the Four Nations. Says he's got to tend to some injuries. and then goes out and plays for Vegas his full regular workload, 20 plus minutes. And for the All-Star game, when players opt out, the NHL would make guys sit out as a punishment. They said they're not going to do that for the Four Nations. What do you think of Pietrangelo bowing out and playing regular minutes? And who's going to replace him here?
Yeah, it's a bad look. Like, I don't know. He says he's going to tend to an injury, and then that night plays 24 minutes. Like, it's just not a great look, and it feeds the narrative that this is like a gimmick tournament and the players aren't going to care and all those things that you read online about it. But then Alex Pietrangelo spoke today and said how much it sucks and how much his family was looking forward to it and how much he was looking forward to it. And maybe it starts to turn a little bit, that it's not as much a bad look on the Four Nations, and he really is playing through something significant. And as for who should be replaced, the minute that I saw the notification pop up on my phone that he is not going to be with Team Canada, I immediately thought Mackenzie Weegar. Mackenzie Weegar, when Liz and I drafted our Team Canada roster before it was named in late November there, Mackenzie Weegar made our roster. And I think that he's a true top pairing stud for the Calgary Flames. We just saw him score a goal on the power play in the Jets and Flames game on Sunday. And I know is a player that a lot of Jets fans have wanted the Jets to look into as maybe a long-term solution on the blue line. So my vote would be Mackenzie Weegar, but there's a lot of good options. Mm-hmm. And hey, if they select Mackenzie Weegar and he's paired with Josh Morrissey, that'll just fuel that narrative even more. And maybe they'll play well. Who knows?
Is this just Vegas gaming the system again? We've seen how they manipulate LTR. Andrew Haleko says in chat, we're talking about Vegas here. This ain't no surprise. Vegas, they do have a lot of players headed to the Four Nations. I know Gary Lawless is going to be there covering all of them. So, we got the conspiracy theorists out this week. NFL rigged for the refs, and Vegas breaking every rule in the rule book. Sorry, NFL rigged for the Chiefs. My bad. But here, Mackenzie Weegar. What does Mackenzie Weegar think about it? Like, don't these guys have vacations booked already in exotic locations? Here's Pat Steinberg from the Fan 960 in Calgary says, here's Mackenzie Weegar on the potential of replacing Pietrangelo for Canada at the Four Nations. He says, I've got a great vacation booked down in Mexico that I'm ready to cancel at any time. So he doesn't think this is a gimmick tournament.
Exactly.
Right? These guys are competitors. They want to play. They want to play best on best. And speaking of, hey, need a defense. What about Winnipeg's Seth Jarvis? He made the team. Carolina. Greg Wyshynski tweeting earlier about what role Seth Jarvis said he wants to play. Whatever role they put me in, I'll play effing right D if they need me to. Now, I don't think they're going to put him on D, but hey, that's a guy who's fired up, wants to play for his country, and I do think once the games get going and you see the top players play against each other, you're going to put the jersey on and get excited.
Yeah, like, these guys are fired up. They want to play for Canada. And it made the whole McDavid discourse so much stupider, so much more dumb. He cross-checks a guy in the face, gets suspended 3 games. And then people are saying, he should withhold his services from the Four Nations because it's an NHL-sanctioned event, and he should protest that by not going to the Four Nations. Do you think Connor McDavid is going to pass up his first opportunity to wear a Team Canada jersey and represent his country since being in the World Juniors because of something that he did? Like, he did cross-check Connor Garland in the face. Like, these players are going to care about it, and we talk all the time about how hockey players are the ultimate competitors. You're telling me as soon, like, maybe they'll go into it a little bit casual, not knowing what it's going to be like. As soon as they get crunched by Matthew Tkachuk or Brady Tkachuk, like, it's game on. Like, these guys are going to throw all the NHL, I need to save my body out the window. They're playing for Team Canada. They're playing for Team USA, Finland, Sweden. Like, this is going to be a legit tournament. I've stood by that the whole time. These players want to be there. They want to represent their country. And someone like Seth Jarvis is 23 years old, and he's not a guarantee for the Olympics the next year as well. You might see Macklin Celebrini there. You might see Connor Bedard in that spot. So he's going to give it his all in a scenario like that. And yeah, I'm super excited for this tournament. And as for Seth Jarvis playing whatever role is needed, we should see if he should strap on the pads and maybe be a goaltender, because Canada definitely needs some help there.
Yeah, they could use a guy like Logan Thompson in that. He's like just behind Connor Hrabchak and all the goalie stats. Congratulations to him on the 6-year contract extension. We'll be seeing him in Washington on Saturday against the Winnipeg Jets. Just more around the league news. Minnesota, they've dealt with injuries we mentioned on the show. Kaprizov out 4 weeks. Having some type of surgery, trying to come back, waiting till he's 100% rather than coming back at 60% and making it worse. But more fuel on the fire in Vancouver today, with GM Jim Rutherford telling Gary Mason of the Globe and Mail, quote, "It certainly appears like there's not a good solution that would keep this group together." How sad is it that these two players, JT Miller and Elias Paterson, can't get along? It's out in the open. Everyone knows they got to make a trade. JT Miller's on the top of the TSN trade bait list. Seems like this has been handled very poorly internally and now in the public as well, as everyone knows they got to trade one of these guys and they can't get along. This team was like one of the top teams in the Pacific last year. And now it's not going so well for them, and they're going to have to trade one of those guys. They might even trade Brock Besser as well. Pretty crazy what's happening with the Canucks, but I am enjoying watching it from afar.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. And where I'm at is, just keep diminishing Elias Pettersson's value more and more so that he's just a cap dump to the Jets at the deadline and they can just get him for pennies on the dollar. That would be awesome. No, but it's crazy how quickly things change in the NHL. Like Vancouver last year was the top team in the Pacific. They lost by 1 goal at home, Game 7 to the Edmonton Oilers, who went on to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and lost. So they were in it. Like, they were a contender in the West. They're bringing back the majority of their roster, and they started the year without Thatcher Demko, their star goaltender, and that was always kind of the excuse, like, oh, just wait till they get their goaltender back. But it just goes to show how a team culture and a fractured locker room can just absolutely kill whatever talent you have on the ice. And that's maybe a area where the Jets, to bring everything back to the Jets, have improved over the last couple of years. Their culture is rock solid. Adam Lowry is the captain. And they're not going to have an issue like this. And I know with the JT Miller, Elias Petter thing, it's fun watching from afar, I should say. It's like the drama of hockey. But yeah, the Canucks have really, really fallen off a cliff, and it's crazy how quickly things can change in the NHL, even when you have talent up and down your lineup.
Yeah, it's getting along apparently important, and I guess they weren't playing well, and that certainly helps. Paterson struggled out of the game. Here's another quote from Jim Rutherford. "I felt like for a long time that there was a solution here because everybody has worked on it, including the parties involved, but it only gets resolved for a short period of time, then it festers again." Jason Bruff from Sportsnet Radio in Vancouver tweeting that out. And the top comment on X is, "What is this, grade 5? I mean, these millionaire players can't get along. Wow. So, hey, it makes for entertaining talk. We'll have another trade to announce at some point, but it's not here. So we can sit here and enjoy. We did have an interesting name on the waiver wire today. You know, the waiver wire report comes out at, 1 o'clock, right when we go live, and Elliot Friedman throws out his acronyms and puts out today Brandon Saad from the St. Louis Blues. And this one surprised me just because he's played on the top line for them at times, but his cap hit is $4.5 million. And he's got 1 year left on his deal. I wonder if anyone is going to claim Brandon Saad, or will he be going down to their AHL affiliate? Was that Springfield? And
yes, I believe.
He does have a no trade clause this year, so he can't be traded without player approval. I think they worked on it, but weren't able to work out a deal. And next year he's got a 12-team no trade. But veteran player Brandon Saad on waivers today. I don't think the Jets are going to put in a claim, but you think someone does?
I think someone might. And I think it might be one of those teams that is at the bottom of the league that needs to get to the cap floor year after year. You know, you've seen the Sharks and the Blackhawks kind of take on contracts and therefore gain assets. And they need to get to the cap floor every single year. So Brandon Saad, a veteran guy, 32 years old, $4.5 million for this year and next, would help a team like that get to the cap floor without having to use one of their retention slots on, you know, you just saw the Chicago Blackhawks use one of their retention slots on Mikko Rantanen, who they didn't even know was like a part of the trade and ended up retaining part of his contract. Teams only have 3 retention slots that they can use. So this is a way for bad teams to get to the cap floor without using one of those retention slots. And then what they can do is go out and trade a player and get cap space and use one of those retention slots for another asset or draft pick or prospect or whatever the case might be. So I think that's the only scenario in which you'll see Brandon Saad get claimed. I don't know if there are any contenders that can take on a $4.5 million cap hit for maybe a middle 6 player that aren't already up against the cap kind of thing, like a Vegas or Edmonton. Like they're pretty up against it. But I would not be shocked to see a team try and make it work, because Brandon Saad, quality bottom 6, middle 6 player, 4.5 isn't that much money. And veteran presence, had some good years a long time ago. And it's having a down year in St. Louis for sure. That's why he's on waivers. But I think it's going to be one of the bad teams, unless you think, Remo, one of the contenders could be in play.
I think the cap hit is a bit prohibitive there, 4.5. And yeah, maybe some bad team some team lower in the standings does claim him, retains, half, although you'd have to retain it for next year. Like, do you want to use your slot on that to get, like a 4th round pick? So I don't think it's worth it. And how about the bad guy St. Louis Blues, Connor? The guy's got a no trade. Well, we're putting you down on waivers. It's not a no move clause. I guess, when you're signing the contracts, you got to understand that might be a possibility. Well, Connor, it's the NHL news portion of the show. We're heading on to the Coolbet Lines. We're going to have some more great Jets discussion tomorrow. We'll recap the game and maybe touch on some long-term Jet stuff. But here, we do have a special video here from Hustler talking about his play of the day for the Coolbet Lines. Let me get this ready, because you're going to want to see this one. Here it is.
Hey, what's going on, cool bettors, lock shoppers, WSTers? Huss with you from Costa Rica. Down here with Coolbet, getting ready for the Costa Rica Poker Open. But the Jets are on a roll in Montreal tonight. I'd cook up a WST parlay for you. Always fun when the Jets are at the Bell Center against the Montreal Canadiens. I'm looking for a big game tonight from Kyle Connor to build off that absolutely filthy goal that he scored on Sunday. So let's take a Kyle Connor anytime goal. We're going to add in a Josh Morrissey point and a Nikolai Ehlers point. And of course, we're throwing the Jets on the money line. We have that boosted up to plus 600, 6-1 right now in the Coolbet exclusives. So get on that. Good luck to the Jets. Good luck to all of you if you're riding with me. And stay tuned for some more fun hijinks from Costa Rica here and on the Coolbet social channels. Cheers, everybody.
There's us, and if you watch this or listen to it on the podcast, you're going to want to tune into the YouTube. He is tarps off, of course, in the pool. I don't know if that's an infinity pool or what, but he said it was coming, and he certainly delivered with a play of the day. We'll go over that in a sec. But
no sunscreen, though, or at least it looks like no sunscreen. Like, Huss, we gotta be protected. We're in Costa Rica. It's hot, man.
I hear the comment, sunscreen, buddy,
sunscreen
from BA
up.
Split. Mary Jane, I hope Huss put on some sunblock. Comet, Lobster, Isha Boy Bruce, he forgot the SPF again. Shake my head. How can you guys tell? Maybe he's got some sunscreen there. Doesn't it rub into the skin? How can you guys tell? You think he's all red already? Well, Phyllis says that was fabulous. BA Split says wear a hat. He could have taken the hat off for the video and then put it back on after.
I think that's wishful thinking, Remo.
Knowing what we've seen from Huss before. Here, we'll take a look at the parlay for tonight. Connor, he's got Connor 1 goal, Ehlers, Morrissey each for a point. Jets to win plus 600. I don't mind that. Connor, he's going to score goals, and the power play, it's working. Those guys are on the power play. I think I'm okay with playing that. I think it's a good parlay. How about you, Connor?
Yeah, you get a Kyle Connor power play goal from Nikolai Ehlers and Josh Morrissey to cover all three legs, and then the Jets win. No, but I don't hate betting on the Jets power play right now. They're red hot. They went 2 for 2 on Sunday. Kyle Connor scored that nasty goal, like Hustler said, from the pool there in Costa Rica. On Sunday, Kyle Connor played great. The whole top line did. And Nikolai Ehlers, I think, is playing well through the flu game into Sunday. That line was good again. And Josh Morrissey, we know that he's, like you said, maybe an underrated quarterback on that power play. So I don't hate it either.
Hey, speaking of Coolbet, I should mention the Lockshot Poker Series continues tomorrow night, 9 Central on the Coolbet Poker app. So I would recommend everyone who's down get in on that for our next one. It is $30 Canadian entry. Oh, there is I'm apparently a bounty on me and Hustler, so you knock me out, or Hustler, or Tom Gazzola, Iwanek. Oh no, Hustler's not in the bounty. So it's just me, Iwanek, Nielsen, and Gazzola knock us out, and you get $100. Pretty incredible. It's hard, Connor. Guys are coming after me. The first tournament I played, no one really expected me, and I was able to take down second. I've struggled since. I don't like the pressure of this bounty, but I'm here for the community, and I will certainly take it. Here, let's look at the other lines tonight on Coolbet. We got Boston, Buffalo. Man, it's like even. That's a pick 'em up, minus 109 each. How far the Bruins have fallen, we'll be seeing them on Thursday. The Jets, minus 169 favorites. Nice number there on the road against the Canadiens. Here, power play goals in the game over 1.5. If you think there's going to be some power plays, how about player goal scorer? Kyle Connor plus 151, Cole Caulfield plus 159, Mark Scheifele plus 170, Line 172. Gabe, I always like Velarde. He's got the lower number plus 190. Maybe you want to go Ehlers plus 235. I don't know if you've got a pick for a scorer. Perfetti plus 345. He had 3 on Friday. Morrissey plus 460. Or whatever you want. Rasmus Kupari plus 750. I'm not sure I'm going all the way down there.
That's an off the board pick. Yeah, I don't hate Velarde. I do like that, and then Ehlers as well. I think he's been playing well the last couple games. I could see him scoring tonight. Yeah,
and here we'll go down to some of the other games. Avalanche minus 134 favorites at the New York Islanders. The Capitals minus 143 at the Flames. Kraken minus 130 favorites hosting the Ducks. And how about this game? This is a nice Western Conference tilt. Late one tonight. Vegas minus 123 hosting the Dallas Stars. Any games here catch your eye tonight that you might be focusing on at the same time as watching the Jets? And who are they playing? Montreal.
Who are they playing? Yeah. No, I do like that Dallas Vegas game, and I'm just checking now, but that game does start at 9, so perfect. That's Jets are in the early slate at 6, and then you get Dallas and Vegas, 2 of the top contenders in the West, at 9. I always love when the late slate games are full of like great teams, 2 contenders, because usually the Jets are at 7, Vegas will play at 9, but even these East Coast road trips, there's a big opportunity to watch a lot of other games when the Jets are on the road in the earlier time slot. And when you get Vegas playing against Dallas, I mean, that's a great game. So I think I'll have my eyes glued to that one as I'm doing all the takeaways from the Jets game.
Yeah, I do enjoy the late games always. Put the kids to bed, put on the TV. Although game starts at 6, maybe I can get my son to watch some hockey finally before he goes to bed. I did try to get him to watch football on the weekend. Not interested. I'll keep trying to force that square peg into that round hole. Here's the Super Bowl. We'll keep track. Chiefs minus 125 favorites. Eagles plus 106. The Chiefs minus 1.5 on the money line. You got any oh man, here come the prop bets. We're gonna be going in for these. Any crazy ones? Pregame. They don't have the anthem length. That's always a favorite at ours. Player specials. any player have a completed pass, reception, and a rush attempt. These are some crazy ones. Like, who's going to call the first timeout, first coach's challenge? Like, MVP, Patrick Mahomes, plus 100, Saquon, plus 300, Jalen Hurts, plus 375. What about further down on the list? Maybe you get some defensive player on the Eagles for big money. So, well, I don't know. It's so early for the Super Bowl. This matchup, we need a break from the Eagles and Chiefs, I think. So we'll wait.
We as football fans are going to benefit from the bye week going into the Super Bowl, because if the game was this Sunday, I think we'd just be like, ugh, we got to watch again the Chiefs and the Eagles. But at least now maybe we get a week to just take a deep breath, and maybe we'll be more receptive to it next week.
Yeah, maybe when media day starts and you have all these crazies running around asking questions at the podium, maybe we'll start to get fired up. Here's a couple more. Dusty's Undies. That's all unders. Sabres, Bruins under. Flames, Washington under. And Golden Knights, Stars under. It's interesting. Points from the point. I like these. Morrissey over 0.5 points. Makar over 0.5. And Heiskanen over 0.5. I don't mind. That's a nice parlay. I don't mind that's boosted to plus 514. And how about shots? Line A over 2.5 shots. Barzal over 2.5 shots. Kadri over 2.5. I don't mind that one either. I might hit some of these. And the lock shot partner parlay, we have Bruins, Lightning in regulation, and Golden Knights. Interesting. Lamplighters, Connor, Point, and Ovechkin all to score. Man, that's plus 1455. I don't mind. Hey, these seem kind of juicy, so I don't know. Have some fun. Play responsibly. They're not all going to win, obviously, but you can give yourself some favorable odds by taking these boosted selections. All right, Connor, big plans for tonight for the game. What's your snack going to be tonight when you're kicking back watching this one?
That's a great question. That's putting me on the spot. I love a good bag of Doritos, but my laptop does not. So I don't. Usually that's a post-game snack because I'm on my laptop tweeting and making clips and stuff. So I don't know. I usually wait till after the game. I'm a big popcorn guy too, I should say, which is more kind to my laptop than Doritos. But
Doritos makes your fingers orange. You got to have a wet nap. You can't do it. Yeah, I like popcorn, not as greasy. I get the giant bag of Annie's from Costco. So I got that here. I'm ready. I'll be ready with the napkin after so I can not get my keyboard all greasy. Well, everyone in the chat, we come to the end of the show. If you have been here this whole time, thank you so much. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We will be here every day, 1 o'clock p.m. live on YouTube, including tomorrow where we'll recap this game and talk about whatever NHL news comes out and some CFL as well. Ken Wiebe is on the road. We're going to touch base with him and most importantly, see how his mustache is growing. Connor, I'm looking forward to having you back on, chopping it up, talking about the Jets Habs game. So Connor, to the chat, to everyone listening to the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. Stick around. We'll send you over to Hacksaw. He's previewing the Super Bowl. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.